Welcome to the Book Beat. I'm Noel Bassiour, and we've got a great show planned for you today. Remember, this is the show where we actually have homework. We want you to find a good book and read it this week, and if you can't find one, maybe think about writing one yourself. So on this show, we feature authors talking about their latest books, but we always have a guest expert. So if you want to write a book or a screenplay or anything in the world of publishing, we always have an expert at the top of the show that can give you some great tips on various aspects of this business. And so before we bring our first guest on, Kimberly Martin, we're going to be joined by her. And I want to tell you that we're also going to have John Chandonnet on and Julie Austin. And they have both written books. John's book is called Shadow Summit, One Man, His Diagnosis, and the Road to a Vibrant Life. And this is about how he has dealt with multiple sclerosis. And Julie Austin wrote The Money Garden, How to Plant the Seeds for a Lifetime of Income. And who doesn't want a lifetime of income using talents that you may already have? So can't wait to hear about that. And our expert guest who's going to join us in about 5 minutes is Kimberly Martin, and she is an expert in self-publishing. And I've worked with her. I know that she's really, really good at what she does. So she can answer a lot of questions you have about a lot of the things you have to do to self-publish your book, whether it's print or digital. I want to talk just for a minute or two about my good friend Gary Shusett, who passed away I think it was about 10 days ago. Gary was famous for the Sherwood Oaks Experimental College. And if you're a screenwriter, this is one of the best kept secrets in Hollywood. They don't get a lot of publicity, but when they get publicity, it's big. It's like People magazine. Gary was one of a kind. I wrote about him actually in my book on Space Patrol. He was a unique character. But what I want to tell you about Sherwood Oaks is that if you're a screenwriter in the Los Angeles area or can possibly make it here, and they don't know I'm telling you this, so I am not plugging the school, but this is a unique school. Some of the students have been James Cameron, Sylvester Stallone. We have Paul Haggis, who wrote Crash, Nancy Meyers. Many just Hollywood greats have quietly gone to this school. And what they do, this is kind of a new model, is they just have really small classes of like maybe 18, 20 people. And as a screenwriter, you actually get to meet the movers and shakers in Hollywood. You get to meet the directors, the story editors, the producers. So you might want to consider just finding out more about Sherwood Oaks. Again, I'm not promoting the school, but it's just, with Gary's death, I just want to mention it because this was his life's work. You can go to their website. If you Google Sherwood Oaks Experimental College, you'll find a great video where Gary tells some funny stories about how he got people like Rod Serling, Lucille Ball. And the most amazing story he tells, which I just want to tell you real quick because it's very funny on the video. But if you are trying to contact anybody, reach out to pitch your book or pitch your film or any kind of creative project, just watch this video of Gary. He was a shameless pest. And so let me tell you about this one guy he called. And he saw this guy, he saw he was connected with film. And he liked to say that he knew people could teach before they knew it themselves. So he started calling this guy and really bugging him. And this guy was kind of involved in films, but was not well known yet. And he said, I'd like you to teach at my school. And the guy said, I don't teach. And he said, yes, you do. I know you could, Anyway, so the guy said no. They had a brief meeting. The guy said no. He walked out. Next day, Gary calls him. He says, I like to teach at my school. And by this time, the guy's going, you again? What do you want? Gary was becoming a real pest, but he was known for this in Hollywood. And so that's why people like Rod Serling, Lucille Ball, Orson Welles taught at Sherwood Oaks in the early days. He would go after these greats, and he would not take no for an answer. And so he kept bugging this guy, and finally this guy said, well, what do I have to do, get a restraining order? I mean, how are you going to stop bugging me? And Gary said, just come down and teach once. I promise you, if you come down, he goes, that's all I have to do, come down and teach, you'll never call me again? Gary said, yes. And so he did. He came, he taught once. Gary said, how did you like it? He said, well, I don't know, it was pretty good, went pretty well. I don't know, maybe I could do this. And he became a fixture in Hollywood. His name was Sid Field. And he wrote the Bible on screenwriting. If you're a screenwriter, you know the name Sid Field. So these were the kind of people that Gary discovered, and he pestered them, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. And I think if you watch this video of him, you might be inspired, because sometimes we hesitate to make a call. We hesitate. We don't want to be pests. I'm not saying you should be like Gary, because he was an extreme. But sometimes just when you look at his passion and his enthusiasm that he brought to what he did and to contacting people, you might feel more as if you can pick up the phone and make a call that maybe has been a little scary to make. I think you'll find inspiration in this video of Gary Shusett. So, Kimberly Martin, hopefully is on the line.
I am here.
Yeah, hi Kim, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for being here. So you are an expert in self-publishing, and I understand that you actually spent thousands of dollars once trying to publish a book, and you weren't happy with the results, and so this is what made you get into it, right?
Yes, that's exactly true. I used to be part of, I created a poetry community a long time ago, back around 2004. And one year they decided, let's get together and put out a book of poetry. Well, they turned to me for help, and so I went out and I found this self-publishing company, we went through them and we spent thousands of dollars and published the book through them, and it was just a nightmare. Nothing they did we were happy with. It looked horrible, and all the promises they made just didn't fall through. And so I just became very determined to learn how to not let that happen to somebody else.
And
so
you were a website designer, right?
I started a website on self-publishing, mainly with the intent to pass on the knowledge.
You were a website designer, right?
Go ahead.
Is that you were a website designer? You had some tech skills, right?
Yeah, and so the next time they decided to put out a book the next year, I decided I can do this myself. So I took the knowledge I had learned, and every book that we did each year, I designed it, and I self-published it for them. So for about 4 years, we would put out a couple of poetry books each year. So that's kind of what launched me into the business.
And I know that the way I found out about you is you actually have created a program, right, where people can sort of turn their Microsoft Word manuscript, they can kind of format it themselves for a print version, right?
Yeah, I offer a program called the Book Design Wizard, and that was the first thing I did when after doing that. Is one of the things I discovered at the time, that there wasn't really any software out there to help you create kind of a template that would be print ready. So I learned how to code, and I developed a program called the Book Design Wizard, and people started asking for it, so I started to sell it. It's just an add-in for Microsoft Word where you enter in the book title, the author name, the size, and all the chapter titles, and it kind of helps you design your book in Microsoft Word. It's not going to replace a professional designer, but for those people who want a very tight budget, that want something that looks pretty decent, it does a really good job with things like novels.
Yeah, I had 2 clients who've used it successfully, and other people I've referred to you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So and it's only still about $38, right? It's pretty.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's expensive. So I know that you have your own unique take on self-publishing because you've been at the center of it. I mean, do you find it has changed? What's the what are the things that have changed recently that we should know about if we want to self-publish a book?
Well, the things that changed since I started. I mean, when I started doing this, everything was still referred to as vanity publishing.
Right.
CreateSpace didn't exist, and Amazon hadn't even released the Kindle yet. So I kind of had to grow with the change in technology. And with the print-on-demand technology, it's really opened up the doors for authors on, a very limited budget. So the things that are changing lately is mainly the social media. It really allows authors to establish an author platform and reach all those people and establish a fan base without the need for the publicity engines of like a traditional publisher. So with all that social media out there, you have the means to reach mass amounts of people and get your book in front of them. And with the ease of electronic publishing, with ebook publishing, it's just so easy and so inexpensive to get your book out there. But of course, there's still things that you need to do. And I've heard you say on some of your shows before where you need to get your book edited. You need to have a good cover. So even though things are quick and easy, you still have to do the steps needed.
Yeah, I noticed one of your questions was, what are the two most important things? Are those the two?
You better those are the two, editing and then cover design. Mm-hmm. Definitely the editing.
Yeah, let's talk about editing.
Okay.
You know, why is it so important?
Well, you don't want to come across as an amateur. I mean, yes, this is a self-published book, but you don't want to come across as an amateur. So when you spend all this time writing the book and then you just say, well, it's good enough, it's done, and you put it out there, and you don't want to come across like that. You want to come across as a professional author. It's going to open more doors for you, and people are harsh.
They are.
During reviews and things, if they see just a few typos, they're really going to bring it to that attention. And to be honest, people are more likely to overlook the small typos and look for big problems, big plot hole issues. It's just things that are unresolved in your story, the flow is wrong. Those things are really what's important. A few typos here or there, people will often maybe not even see them or overlook them.
Right, because I've even found typos in even that book, The Eagle Has Landed, which was a tremendous bestseller. I noticed there were typos in the paperback.
Oh, and I see them all the time now, too. I'm just keyed to it. I'll see them.
Yeah. But you know what I find? I wonder if you find this, too. With editing, it's like I've got a couple of clients right now, and, we're on the second edit because there were holes, there were gaps, and I come from mainstream where, when the editing process is really very brutal. I mean, those guys are good. And you can't have holes and gaps. And self-published authors, sometimes they can't see them. Do you find that sometimes?
It is very true. When you're the author and you read your book many times and you don't see the big picture, you really need to be able to take a step back or have someone else take a step back and overview the entire book and look for those things that you just aren't seeing. So you really have to come into it with a thick skin and realize that editor is there. He's on your side. They're going to read the book, and they're there to make that book better. And you'd have to go through multiple rounds. I mean, if you just do a proofreading, you're missing so much more. So you've really got to dig deep and do the substantive editing, looking for those problems. Then once that's done, then you can go back and do the proofreading for spelling and grammar, things like that.
Right, because we should tell people the different kinds. I mean, there's content editing and there's copy editing, right?
Right. Usually I start out with saying have your manuscript evaluated. That's like the very big picture. To look for the big issues that, overall type of mistakes. And then there's the substantive editing where you're really digging into the plot line, the story development, the flow of the book. Once that's done, and that can take multiple rounds, then you want to go to the proofreading stage because there's no point in looking for spelling and grammar and spending all that time on a section that you may rewrite completely. So after all that stuff is done, then you go through the proofreading and stage where you're looking for all the little mistakes to do a final polish.
Right, and you do kind of all these services, right? Everything from consulting to the final
I don't
edit.
do everything myself. I have hired a team. I have 3 employees that work for me now. A lot of the stuff I used to do on my own, but then I realized that, I know what my expertise lies in, so I just hired people that can do it better than me.
You realize you're just one person, right?
Yes, right. So mainly my role has turned to more the coaching and the consulting, and then hand off to the team that I've trained to do the rest of the work, and I oversee it.
Now, do you think, I'd like to get your take on a couple of things, because these are questions I'm always asked, and I noticed this is one of the questions that you actually gave me. So, will self-publishing a book help you get noticed by a traditional publisher? What do you think?
I think it is possible. If you have a self-published book that goes viral, so to speak, that it's just for whatever reason it just did a kickoff media type thing and everyone's talking about it, you may be approached by a publisher looking to kind of cash in on that. However, at that point, do you really need that publisher? You've already become popular. You've already selling the books. Everybody already knows your name. So when a publisher steps in, the deal they offer you may not be money-wise what you can get doing it yourself like you have been. because they are middlemen. They're going to take a cut of your profits.
Well, yeah, because
you
get about 10%, 10-15% of the paperbacks can go up to 20% of the cover price, and like if it's $25 books, so you're getting like $2.50, $3, but you could sell the ebook, right, for or the print version, right? So
at that point, I usually see that people, the rare person that does get that much, success off that self-published book, that it sparks that interest. At that point, why? Maybe just because they can say, hey, I'm a published author now, and that's, what they really wanted to be, and that's, perfectly fine. But someone who's in it for the business and for, making a profit, they look at the bottom line and say, do I really need that?
Right. I think one of the only kind of, with pros and cons, the only thing against being self-published I found is you still can't get on a lot of the mainstream media shows, like the morning shows.
That is true.
Yeah, yes. You probably heard that.
And I'm hoping that will change. I mean, the stigma of being a self-published author is definitely changing. With ebooks out there becoming so popular and so many self-publishing authors putting ebooks out there, a lot of people are reading self-published books without even realizing they're self-published books.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think it's the exposure to them and the willingness to maybe buy their books as ebooks because they're less expensive, less risk. I think that stigma is going to change, and people are going to start opening the doors more.
Right, and since readers have gotten better, right? I mean, that's kind of been responsible for ebooks becoming more popular, right? The Kindle's gotten better, and all these hardware devices have gotten better. So, but how do you think that ebooks have changed the publishing world?
Well, it really is, like I said, it really opens up the access to authors who, to get a book published can be very expensive, especially if you go back years and years and how it used to be. But with ebooks, it just opens that door for you and makes it so you can get in really inexpensively, get your book out there quickly, and get it in front of all the same people that the traditional published books are at. So your ebook is going to be sitting right next to a traditionally published ebook. It's going to be right there in front of all those people. So it really makes it, quick and affordable to get out there. And like I said, a lot more readers are willing to give self-published ebooks a chance. And some people even proudly proclaim, I am self-published. And people are actively going out there seeking those self-published ebooks. Yeah. So it really makes it easier to get your book out there and get the exposure that you might not get maybe like 10 years or so ago before the ebooks were really popular.
Yeah, that's really changed the stigma of being self-published, hasn't it? And so you format for ebooks, right?
Yeah, we do offer ebook conversion or formatting services, and we have a whole ebook lab here. So I've got multiple ebook devices, old and new, laying around the office, and it's always kind of fun, loading up those ebooks of all the different devices. And it's surprising how much differences there are. Something may look beautiful on like the iPad ebook reader, then you load it on a little old school ebook reader, and the differences are kind of sometimes extreme. So that's something to caution authors about is, if they are doing an ebook, just don't blindly accept like an auto-generated ebook. Make sure you really test that on different devices. If you have an ebook device, load it on there, test it. You can even get some like emulators, like Kindle has an ebook preview where you can download and emulate different Kindle devices. So just test it out to make sure it does actually work on all the different devices.
Well, you are obviously an expert, and I knew that from the beginning when I first checked out your site. And you are it's that great combination of somebody who actually understands the technical part of it as well. So tell us how people can get in touch with you.
Well, we have our website. You can find us at selfpub.net, so there's lots of information there about our services and, the classes and webinars that we do.
Now, you do classes in the Atlanta, Georgia area, right? You do real classes?
I do local classes, but I also hold online webinars as well. I have a kind of a 5-part series.
When you're not riding your motorcycles, right?
Yes, when I'm not riding my motorcycle. I do something that my scooter is parked right outside right now. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, the website you can reach us at, and our contact information is there. Or you can always just give me a call at any time. I am on the East Coast, but you can reach me at 770-642-6400. And, I'm one of those people that answer the phones themselves most of the time.
That's great. And it's self-pub.net, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Kimberly Martin, thank you so much for being with us on the Book Beat.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So stay tuned. because our next guest had it all. He had a master's degree from MIT, a promising job offer. He had met his soulmate. He got married. He was leading software development teams and climbing mountains and running marathons. And then he got a diagnosis that drastically changed the course of his life. And how did he get to this, from the point where he was barely able to take care of himself, to back to wholeness and well-being? And he's going to be in studio with us, so you can see. John Chandonnet will join us after the break. This is the Book Beat on LA Talk Live.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host, Ferran Dozier. I'm inviting you to join me on WDC Radio every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as we discuss community topics around health, sports, and entertainment. So don't forget to shout us out. What's the count? On WDC Radio, only on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. What's the count?
Hi, and welcome back to the Book Beat. I'm Noel Bassiour. And that music, by the way, that bumper music, is composed by my brother, Rick Fleischman, who has Visual Music Service. So thank you, Rick. I love that music. We have in studio John, am I pronouncing this right? John Chandonnet?
Correct.
Great. You just have an amazing story. I mean, you were completing your master's degree at MIT. You had a job offer from Sapient, right? That was
Correct.
a big technology
Exactly. It
company,
still is,
right?
yes.
And then you got hit with this diagnosis, which was for
MS.
MS.
Multiple sclerosis. I was 27.
27.
I was on a basketball court, and I lost fine motor control of my left hand and left leg, and I was spazzing on the basketball court, and I was a busy college kid at the time, and I was like, you know what, I don't have time for this, and limped around campus for 2 weeks, and finally went to see a doctor who had an MRI done, and MRI came back and said, yep, you've got MS.
And so this happened like all of a sudden, like you were blindsided?
Completely blindsided. And then, I was 27, and at that point, I basically ignored it. I lived in denial, and I knew two people who had an MS diagnosis before. And one person basically went on to live a great life with no symptoms. And another person had pretty severe symptoms and, after a number of years was confined to a wheelchair. And so I was 27, a 27-year-old guy, not really sure how to deal with it. And so I didn't.
Yeah, of course.
I ignored it.
How long did you stay in denial?
For 6 years. And during that time, Jean-Noel, I did some amazing things. I mean, I ran marathons.
Wow.
I ran LA and Philadelphia a couple times with my brother, and climbed Whitney and Shasta and Tyndall and a couple of the other 14,000-foot peaks in California.
So were you almost making an effort to go to the other extreme?
Exactly.
Do you think?
Yeah. Basically I flicked the switch to go way far to the extreme and live my life to prove that I was okay. And you know what? It worked. After I was running marathons, I was like, maybe this is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is not going to catch up to me. Maybe I can keep things kind of under wraps.
Kind of control it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe I can manage things, and maybe I can live this great life that I was meant to live.
And then what happened?
Until it stopped working.
Yeah.
and basically over 2 years, lost function, lost feeling from my elbows to my fingers, my knees to my toes. I was failing online tests at work that I'd been with the company long enough to teach. I was falling downstairs. My speech,
Speech was slurring.
it was slurring. I would not be able to have a conversation with you.
What about the vision?
The vision, there was some vision issues, but
not so much with that, but the speech kind of
the
numbness,
the speech and the numbness and just falling. I was falling downstairs. Come
not
on.
Pretty. Embarrassing, huh?
Yeah, no, it was, and I tried to deny it. I thought that was the answer. That was going to be what allowed me to live a great life.
It gets hard to make excuses because I interviewed Annette Funicello right after she had been diagnosed.
Right.
And the thing was, she had all these tabloid reporters following her, and they thought she was drunk because she didn't want to go public.
Right.
So did you have to kind of people? You were probably worried. Like, what were people thinking, right?
Right. I told no one. I told no one. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want it to slow me down at work, and so I worked really hard, and I had a lot of success at work to prove that I was okay, to prove my mettle and that I was worthy, and
But eventually people notice, right?
Yeah,
you can't hide it, right?
Yeah, eventually, 7 years in, things started to catch up to me.
What happened? What?
The speech was one thing, and my mind, I started to be forgetful and just wasn't as quick witted as I typically was, and I prided myself on my rational thought, my ability to think, and that was going, and then just my movement, my mobility, and starting to limp. And
so what did you do at that point?
Where at that point, after the 2 years, Jean-Noel, got so bad I lost hope. And I was fortunate to have, there's a lot of people in my life who love me, which, that's a really important thing. So whether it's my wife or my family, my mom, dad, my brother, they basically had an intervention, You
hadn't told them yet, right?
No, they knew.
They knew at this point.
But they allowed me, allowed me to live the great life that I was trying to live.
They saw that you were, and then they saw it wasn't working, right?
And they saw it wasn't working,
right?
At my wedding, I began to slow down a bit, which it's a hard thing to swallow.
Yeah.
And I just realized at that point, after 2 years, where I had no hope, I had to find an answer. I had to find a different way. My way of being, of trying to push the limits, it wasn't working. And so my brother turned me on to this place in San Diego called OHI, the Optimum Health Institute.
Oh, yeah. Is that based on the Ann Wigmore?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Gabriel Cousins and Ann Wigmore.
Yes, I met Gabriel once. Yeah. So explain what they do.
Yeah, amazing. So I went to in San Diego to the retreat center, and basically for 4 months took time off from work and detoxed from life. All I did was eat raw food, and I basically was mindful of everything that was going into my body, whether it was food, liquids. The only thing I was drinking was water and Rejuvelac.
Did you fast for a while?
I fasted. Yeah, every week we fasted for 3.5 days. And so, at OHI, I realized that I could not just fight things with my mind and my body, which is what I had done for 6 years.
Right. And a lot of people who sometimes get MS tend to have, I don't know if you felt that control thing.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Right. So try to control things with my mind and my body.
Right.
And that would allow me to have financial and professional success. That was the answer. Boom, I found it. But it didn't work. And then at OHI, that's where I realized, okay, it's mind, body, spirit, and emotions. Those 4 things are important. And what they allow is they allow for me to tap into my professional purpose. So what I was meant to do professionally, and hopefully allow me to live the abundant life that I'm meant to live, so financially, and then socially surround myself with a group of people and support system that nurture my vibrant well-being, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So those 7 aspects, I had 4 of them dialed in before the MS caught up to me. It caught up to me, and then none of them were working. Basically had to throw them all out and find a new way of being.
Right. It sounds like you had to totally reinvent yourself.
I did.
Physically, emotionally,
emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I mean.
And so what was that like for you? What was the big turnaround? What were some of the things you realized about how you'd been living before that had possibly fed into creating, this condition?
Right. My beliefs were so important. I had to be perfect. I had to, perfection was kind of what I held out there as my mantra for being. And I realized I had to ease back on myself and just, I'm living with this. It slows me down. It causes me to have to take rests and so forth.
It's almost like the body resists perfection, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, right, exactly. The body does. I mean,
it has its own perfection.
There's something.
But when we try to,
there's something spiritually amiss with that.
Yeah.
Which I realized.
Yeah, because maybe if there's a larger force, it's got, right, its own ideas, and if we try to micromanage all that.
It's got its own way.
Yeah, and the nerve lining goes like, I don't know if I want to stick around on these nerves,
Right. It will whack you back into place.
Yeah.
It'll tell you, it'll let you know that there's maybe something else out there that's guiding your path. That it doesn't matter how bad you want your will wants you to have it. There's another way.
Yeah, you can't totally control or micromanage it, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big lessons of MS.
That's the beauty. I mean, now I say MS is my biggest teacher. Mm-hmm. It's taught me so much about life, and it's opened up a whole world of well-being that I didn't think was possible. Just with my wife, and just allowed me to understand, compassion and love and forgiveness, and which things, when I was working a job, that was more professional, I didn't have time to think about these things.
Right.
I had responsibilities. I had things that I had to get done.
No time for those things.
There's no time for those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So first you were down at the Institute, your physical
Correct.
Body was getting better, right?
Right.
Was that happening, your physical?
Yeah, it was. I noticed after 3 weeks that I was getting better, which was amazing.
Wow, that's fast.
And so which was fast. And so I realized that, everything I put into my body does impact the way I be, the way that I am in the world.
So did that help you? Did you start to get some of your strength back?
Yes, I did. By the time I left there after 4 months, I was carrying around vegetables in the garden and picking vegetables. And the director of the institute one day saw me carrying these vegetables up the parking lot, up the hill. She was like, "What? That's amazing." Yeah. So it was quick, and it allowed me to understand that I had to be very mindful about how I wanted to be in the world. And so yeah, I went back to work and I stayed there for 3 years until I realized that wasn't allowing me to maintain my health. And so my health declined and so forth. And because I'm living with this disease that wants to stop me in my tracks.
So are you constantly having to keep in balance? So,
It is constant. You're right, John Noel. It's constant habit. It's every day. It's every meal. It's having to take a walk every day. It's working out with my trainer. It's twice a week. It's doing yoga. It's being mindful of everything I put in my body, as I said, and what I'm thinking in my mind.
Wow. So you've written a book, and it's coming out in November?
It sure is, yes.
Great. And how can people get it?
Well, it'll be available on Amazon, and so I'm self-publishing.
Print and electronic?
Print and
Kindle?
Yep, print and electronic. So I'll have my own there will
Publishing.
be the electronic version, yes, publishing, which will be great. So all the formats, whether paper or electronic,
right,
you'll be able to get.
Put it on Smashwords maybe, or if you check out Smashwords, they've got all the different digital platforms and everything. Make everything available. So,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it through Lightning Press, and so they're helping us format it for all the different platforms, and I'll print through them, so it'll be print on demand. So I'm not going to be shipping around bits when you don't need to. So.
Right. And so in the book, is this just for people with MS, or is it who's
Great
it for?
question. So it's anyone who faces a challenge in life. That's the universal aspect of my story. It's no matter, everyone's got something in life that they get thrown a curveball, and they have to figure out a different way of being to unlock vibrancy in their life. And that's the universal truth in my story.
So this sounds like an amazing book, because you can see that you were thrown like a huge curveball, a huge challenge, and obviously have figured out a way to find well-being again and to keep that going. So this sounds like a fascinating book for anybody facing a challenge. So
which is probably everyone in life faces challenge, right?
Yeah, who doesn't, right?
Right.
So give your website again.
My website is johnchandonnet.com. So JOHNCHANDONNET.com.
Okay. And so they can either go to the website, get the book, or get it through Amazon, or...
Exactly. When it comes out in November, they can get it on Amazon.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. An amazing story, really amazing story. My best friend that I ran away from home with got MS, and she is in a wheelchair now. And when I interviewed Annette, of course, she had great hope, but Annette couldn't turn it around, So congratulations.
Thank you.
So our next guest is Julie Austin, so stay with us. She is an award-winning author, inventor, and multiple business owner, and she's author of The Money Garden. So if you'd like to use the talents that you already have to create a lifetime of income, you've got to hear what Julie has to say, because she says that this is totally possible. Stay tuned. This is the Book Beat.
Maker of fine laptop apparel, laptop covers and sleeves, iPhone covers, and unique home decor. Brooksy laptop sleeves are made to order and can be custom made to fit your computer. Just send a message with your order telling us the model and the dimensions of your laptop, and we'll make you your very own sleeve in whichever design you choose. Any of the pillow designs can be turned into laptop sleeves too. Remember, Brooksy for all your computer embellishment needs. You can find Brooksy at www.brooksy.com. That's BROKESY.com. And remember to tell them that you heard it here on LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, we're back. This is the Book Beat, and we're here with Julie Austin, who is an award-winning author, inventor, multiple business owner, and an expert in the fields of innovation and creativity. And you invented Swiggy's wrist water bottles, right? Which have been a NASDAQ Product of the Year semifinalist, currently in 24 countries. That must be a great feeling to invent something like that.
It's a great feeling when you show up somewhere and you see someone wearing them.
Oh yeah, that must be. Describe what Swiggies are. They're wrist water bottles.
Yeah, you strap them on, and it's basically for runners or walkers, kids.
I've seen that. Yeah. And you've been on, major media, ABC, CBS, all the major networks, Fox
and
News.
The Today Show.
The Today Show.
A couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really? A couple of weeks ago? Wow. To promote this book?
No, for the Swiggies.
Oh, for the Swiggies, right. Okay. But now you have this new book, The Money Garden, and it shows us how we can use our talent and skills to create a lifetime of income no matter where we're starting from. So, of course, everybody wants this. We all would love to have this great money-making idea that would mean for the rest of our lives, we could just, is this what you're talking about? Like, is this really possible? Like, how would we go about that?
Well, I came up with the idea for the book.
Yeah.
After...
And you can hold the book up
Yep.
here. Prop it up there if you want.
But here?
Yeah, we can even prop it up against the microphone. Yeah, there you go. The Money Garden.
I came up with the idea for the book after, the economy took a nosedive.
Right.
And obviously, everyone was kind of scrambling to reinvent themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
And people were always telling me, you have so much information, because I did everything from scratch. I started with, just basically a lump of clay and turned that into a prototype and started from there.
Now you mean for the Swiggies?
Yeah, from scratch. And so I started realizing I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. Things were going really, really well, but you never know what can happen. Not just the economy, technology changes, customers' taste change, all kinds of things can happen. So
that's why you probably say multiple streams of income, right?
Exactly.
Go for that.
So never put all your eggs in one basket and create multiple businesses. It's not as hard as it sounds. Once you build a business up, then you can kind of let it run itself.
Well, give us some examples, because do you work with clients? Do you coach clients in this?
I do.
So maybe give us an example of somebody who was able to take a talent that they had and actually turn it into this money-making, venture that is bringing in income.
Okay. I don't know why this just popped into my head, but there is a guy I believe it's in South Central, used to be a former gang member. He said, basically, what am I going to do? Here's my resume as a gang member.
Yeah. Here's my rap sheet. My resume.
Yeah. And so he turned that into a business and started doing tours through his old neighborhood. That is just a crazy idea that you would think never worked, but
now he turned exactly what into a business?
The idea of a tour around his old neighborhood.
Oh, taking people on a tour?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
And I think it's called LA Gang Tours.
Oh, wow.
And it's booked. It's booked solid.
That's original.
Yes.
That's
good. The whole point, is to be innovative and come up with, use whatever you have.
Wow, LA Gang Tours.
You
Who
can
would
look
have
it up.
thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this is new. That is
Oh, you
very
never
smart.
heard of it?
No, I have not heard of it. Have you heard of it, Nez? Or, no, our engineer hasn't either. Yeah. No, this is great. What an idea. And so now he's
And also what he does is he gives back to the community. So he creates jobs within the neighborhood and gives back to the community.
Who would have thought? Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a great example. Do you have another one? That's wonderful.
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to think of someone who has done something incredible like that. But I mean, just to take whatever skills and talents you have.
Right. And we can see from that. That's just a great example. I mean, wow. That is so creative. Does the Money Garden, the book, kind of walk you through this step by step, or
it walks you through step by step how to take whatever you enjoy doing and what you're good at. So it may not necessarily be the same thing. You may be good at training, tutoring, let's say, for example, but maybe you don't like it.
Right.
And just sort of coming up with a happy medium of finding a business that uses everything that you're good at and that you enjoy.
Well, a lot of times, a lot of people say, think about what you wanted to do as a kid, right? And if you still want to do that, I mean, some of it, like maybe it's too late to be a firefighter, whatever, but is it sort of along those lines? Like should you start there, like, or either what you thought, what your dream was as a kid, or what you enjoy now as an adult? Like, suppose somebody enjoys, like, I don't know, wine tasting or something.
You just made me think of a good one.
Good.
Wine Dude.
Oh.
Wine Dude is a guy, he said growing up, he said, I am going to drink wine and I'm going to get paid for it. And we all said,
a noble ambition.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, everyone would love to do that. And he goes, no, I'm really going to do it. And so he started out working just as a bartender, and then kind of worked his way up. He got to know all the wine distributors. And now, I mean, for the past 20 years, he's basically been traveling around the country and the world, drinking wine. He puts on wine tastings, and he gets paid for it. And he drinks the best wine. And we all thought he was crazy.
Sounds good. So, but how does, like, is there going to be a transition period? Like, I imagine, like, don't quit your day job too soon, right? Or...
Yes. I teach a lot of people who, what I thought it was going to be was people who were unemployed. But it turned out it's all people who hate their jobs.
Yeah, because that is, and you mentioned this earlier here, that is one thing that I noticed happened during the kind of quote recession, unquote, the Great Recession, what a term, is that some people who lost their jobs that had never done anything but work 9 to 5 had to reinvent themselves, as you said. And are those the people that you thought primarily?
That's who I thought I was going to be coaching.
Right.
But what it turned out to be was the people who had jobs that they hated. And they were sort of marginally there because they got a paycheck, but they really didn't want to be there. So they wanted to transition out of it. And so I would just say, look, you've got a paycheck right now, so do this on the side and start building it up.
And you really do see that more and more they're able to make enough income, and then I guess there's a cutoff point where they kind of have to jump off the cliff, right? And quit the day job.
Yeah, and that's the scary point is, you got to make sure, because once you let go of that job, it may not be so easy to find another one.
Right, there's that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you cover in the book?
Basically how to create the jobs, how, and you know what, I would really, really say, don't do what I did, which is to start a product business. That's the most capital intensive business you can start.
Because not everybody may have a great idea like that, right?
Even though I had a great idea, but I had to bootstrap it, and I really bootstrapped it. It was very difficult, and that was when the economy was good. So, I would suggest starting with a service business because there's less capital, and you already are using the skills and techniques that you have, so you already know how to do it. I would start there.
So, for example, let's say you're a therapist, but you don't particularly like being a therapist, but you've got certain skills, right? That can you
Yes.
tell us what you would advise somebody like that?
Well, I would be creative about it. And instead of doing, just, okay, I'm just going to branch out and start my own therapy business, think of other unique niches within that no one else is doing. You can make a very good living within a niche,
So finding niches is kind of one way to go about it.
Right, exactly.
Because maybe you don't, like I was thinking, like, well, maybe somebody doesn't like being a therapist that much, but you're saying, like, well, maybe think about, is there any aspect of it you do like? And
Right.
then focus on that. Is that kind of
Right, and then find a niche within that area.
Well, that's an interesting idea. So what else? What else do you cover? Like how are we going to? And you say a lifetime of income, which obviously, I guess, do we have to keep reinventing ourselves, kind of, or?
Yes.
Or,
It never ends.
Oh, I see.
Oh, did you think it was just you plant the garden and that's it?
Yeah, that's what I thought. No?
No.
So how does it really work then? What?
Well, I mean, I started out with one business and I got that up and running, and then I got distributors who basically run their own
For the
businesses.
Swiggies.
Yeah, so it's like having reps and distributors. They run their own. So I don't really have to do that much work anymore.
Is it like a franchise at this point?
It's similar to that, yeah.
Kind of license it out or something? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I licensed it, and also I have distributors.
So you had a good idea. Then you got all these people to be independent distributors.
Yes.
Is that? And then
Yes.
that keeps the income flow.
That keeps the income coming in. I mean, I have manufacturing in 3 countries. So,
So you got to stay on top of that.
You have to stay on top of it, but it's not like running it.
Yeah.
9 to 5 business.
Right. So, and you coach people. So I'm just thinking of other examples. Can you think of any? Because other examples, like, just tell us, like, how somebody who really hates their job, like, let's say we got somebody working from 9 to 5 who's just doing paperwork. They're working for the DMV, or they're working in some city.
So they have a good paycheck.
Yeah.
They should keep that job.
Right.
But yeah, there's plenty of time, nights and weekends to, first of all, you better pick something you enjoy, because you're going to be spending a lot of time doing it. I mean, I also have a PR business. I enjoy it. I love waking up first thing in the morning to pitch clients. And I only take the clients I really believe in and I'm excited about.
So you sort of said, well, I like talking to people. I like doing PR. Because I think where a lot of people may get stuck is we're told that, I mean, theoretically, we could do what we love, but have you uncovered any ways to make that easier? Because most people kind of hit a block with that. Either we're too tired or too exhausted, or, how do you get that? How do you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and actually make this happen?
Well, that's why I said it has to be something you are really passionate about. Because I always ask people, no matter how tired you are, at the end of the day, what is it that would excite you and give you energy? Is it going out and partying with your friends? Is it watching TV?
Well, let's say it's watching TV.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I know someone who did continuity. Continuity means she would sit at home and literally watch TV shows.
Really?
For you know what I mean by the
There's jobs like that? Yeah.
There are all kinds of jobs.
That you can do at home?
Yeah.
Oh.
So she liked watching TV. That's what she did.
So I thought continuity you have to be in the studio for, but no. So she created a home-based job?
Right. I mean, I also have another business, reading scripts. I enjoy, that business.
Right.
So when I needed a job a long time ago, I went to a friend of mine and I said, I looked around the office and I saw all these scripts piled to the ceiling. And I said, who reads these? And he goes, well, I do when I have time. And I said, well, maybe I could do it. Well, no, there's more to it than just reading. And I said, okay, then train me. And that was one of my first jobs.
I've always wondered, is that well paid?
No.
No, because you see all these ads, become a Hollywood script reader, and I've always thought, that's about 5 cents an hour, right?
Well, it depends, how fast you read. I got to the point I could read very fast.
So it improves your reading skills.
Yeah.
But it sounds like from what you're saying that really the sort of like the key is the first step where you have to dig for that passion and find out what it really is, right?
Right.
But then let's say you go like, well, I really love watching TV. Now, how am I going to find, how will I find how I can do what you say and turn that into money making? How do I take that next step?
Well, sometimes you literally have to create your own job, just like what I did with the script reading. I had no idea that job existed. I just happened to, I had been fired from a job and I couldn't find another one. I was getting a little desperate and I was in someone's office and I said, please, do you have a job I could do? And I looked and I literally saw the scripts and made a job for myself. And so he had someone train me and I got that job, and then I, took that skill to other companies until I built a business.
But I mean, the thing is, I wonder if, and I assume in the book you probably give people some tips about how to really make this happen, right? Because somebody may just kind of hit a wall and go like, well, I really love, I'll pick the easy one. Like I like to go out and arrange flowers and pick them from the garden. And then, the easy answer is, well, open a flower shop, become a flower arranger. But there's probably more creative things, right?
Well, that is, if you're only thinking this direction,
Yeah.
you're only thinking flower shop, no, it's probably not going to work.
So what else could you think of?
You just literally have to think of another innovative way. Like, who else needs flowers? And where is a market that no one's going after? That's another thing. I call this, in the book, I call it marketing wide and marketing deep.
Yeah, you must have tips like that in the book that really help us see how to do this, right?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And how to market your business with no money, because I had no money when I started.
How do you do that?
Well, there are a lot of different ways.
Social media?
Social media has opened up all kinds of worlds for that. Blogging, writing articles, guest blogging. And one you're going to hate, and everyone's going to hate it, but it's the best, is cold calling.
Really?
Yeah.
Just picking up the phone?
Just pick up the phone, smile and dial.
Right.
It works, and it's free.
Yes, I've heard that it does. I know people that do that. And what you talk about pyramiding up to avoid going into debt. What is that?
That's what I did when I started out with a product, was to buy a small amount of inventory and then sell the inventory and buy more. As opposed to, I've heard people
borrowing lots of money to produce 1,000 widgets or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually took that a little too far, and I ended up with an entire warehouse full. And then I went, okay, how am I going to sell them? So I would follow that advice of start small and just pyramid up.
So you made a lot of mistakes.
Oh my God, I made millions.
What was the biggest one you made? If I might ask.
Oh.
Well, what was the second biggest one?
Okay, well, one of the biggest ones is I signed a contract with the devil. This was a guy.
Never a good idea.
No, that's not a good idea. This guy said, oh, I'm a marketing guru. I don't know if anyone says they're a guru of something.
Run the other way.
Run. Yeah. And so, at some point you get tired of doing it yourself, and you, well, I guess somebody's going to help me.
Yeah.
They're going to do it for me. And as soon as there's a 26-page contract that I never read, didn't understand, and I signed it. And the next day, it was like Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh no.
And it was pretty bad.
That's painful.
One day he will be on the show American Greed. I guarantee you I will see him on there.
Well, why don't you just drop a note to the producers, anonymously, and see if you can help that along a little bit. Well, I can tell, just from the way you talk about this, that you've kind of, really experienced this and, really done it yourself and made the mistakes. And
Well, that's what you have to do. You
Yeah.
just have to get out and start making not big, huge mistakes
Right.
where you lose a lot of money, but
Yeah.
small mistakes. Because you're
Right.
going to do it. You're going to make mistakes.
Right.
That's how you learn.
So it's not just theoretical. It's really the book is really from your practical, real life experience, is what I get. Right?
I've saved people a lot of time and money and heartache.
Can't beat
The
that.
learning curve was huge.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
So how can people get the Money Garden?
You could either go to Create for Cash, that's FOR, Create for Cash, or you can find it on Amazon.
Okay. And do you have a website?
The createforcash.com is the
Okay.
website.
And you do private coaching as well?
I do.
Speaking and all of that, right?
I do.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This is very valuable advice. And get the book, folks. See what you think. And
Thank
maybe,
you.
Yeah, maybe you'll come up with one of these great money-making ideas. So join us next week, same time, same station for the Book Beat. And remember your homework. This is a show with homework. Find a good book. If you can't find one, start writing the book that you want to read yourself. So see you next week. And remember that all of these shows are archived here at latalklive.com, where we are more than just talk.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.